Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. There are headlines everywhere suggesting that about half of all Americans risk running out of money in retirement. And these headlines are attention grabbing and downright scary. The fact of the matter is, about 63% of Americans are more fearful of running out of money in retirement than they are of death. That stat speaks to how scary these headlines can be. Now, these headlines about a looming retirement crisis are nothing new. But the good news is that there's research showing just who's most at risk and how to prevent the risk of running out of money in retirement. So rather than getting caught up in the fear that these headlines are trying to create, let's break it down so it's a lot less intimidating. And here's a spoiler. The research is way less scary than what these articles will lead you to believe. There's a really big assumption being made when the statements of 45% of retirees risk running out of money. The big assumption that researchers are making is that retirees will need to replace 100% of their income in their retirement years. And overwhelmingly, the data tells us that that is simply not true. Once people step into retirement, the vast majority of people actually experience reduced spending levels. I did recently do a video based on research from Morningstar that did a deep dive into this topic. And based on that research, they found that a typical retiree might experience a drop in spending anywhere from 10% all the way up to 50% of their pre-retirement income. So basing a headline and an article on the idea that you have to have 100% of your pre-retirement income once you step away from the workforce, when the data shows that typical retirees do not need 100% of their pre-retirement income, that's a big glaring flaw. For most retirees, they do experience a drop in spending once they enter into retirement. But this really does depend on the individual and your lifestyle. If you're going to go into retirement and you're going to increase your travel or participate in expensive activities, you may not experience a drop in spending. You may actually experience an increase in spending. But based on the data we actually see from true retirees, what if we adjusted this concept that you have to have 100% of your pre-retirement income to have a successful retirement? Well, in that situation, the picture improves dramatically. If we assume that a retiree only needs 80% of their pre-retirement income, now it shows that only 31% of retirees risk having a shortfall of savings. If we further adjust that number down, suggesting that retirees would only need 70% of their retirement income, now only 24% of retirees would be at risk of running out of money. These stats show a wild improvement in the odds of retirement success, in the odds of not running out of money. And as I said, most retirees do experience a drop in spending in retirement. This may sound like an obvious thing to say, but one of the biggest predictors of a successful retirement is having retirement savings. In fact, Morningstar gives us this direct quote. The model paints a clear picture. Participating in an employer-sponsored defined contribution plan significantly lowers the risk of retirement shortfalls. Those with access to employer-sponsored retirement plans like the 401k are far less likely to run out of money in retirement. Even if their contributions are modest, those with access to these plans on average have about 4 times the savings of those who don't have access to these types of plans. Simply having access to these plans increases the likelihood that people will set something aside for their future. Without access, most people don't save for their future, even when options like a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA are available. It's easy to do, but it's also easy to ignore. Morningstar goes on to say, there isn't necessarily a national retirement crisis, but instead a crisis for those who do not or are unable to participate in a 401k plan or other defined contribution plan. 57% of people not participating in defined contribution plans run the risk of running out of money in retirement, where 21% of people participating in defined contribution plans run the risk of running out of money in retirement. So if you want to drastically increase the odds that you aren't going to run out of money in retirement, make sure you're setting something aside in investments for your future retirement date. If you work for an employer who offers a 401k, make sure that you participate. If you don't have an employer who offers an employer-sponsored retirement plan, you have to take it upon yourself. So as long as you're setting something aside for your future retirement, your odds of having a successful retirement go way up. Morningstar's research has also suggested that retirement outlook is improving over time. The percentage of retirees who are at risk of facing an income shortfall in retirement is declining over generations. And much of this has to do with the improved access to financial education, as well as the improved accessibility to investing itself. We have to consider that the retirement landscape has changed drastically in just 1 or 2 generations' time. The first 401k wasn't established until 1978. The first IRA came on the scene in 1974. The first Roth wasn't available until 1998. When we talk about an activity that is done over the course of an entire lifetime, like investing, something that you do for 40 or 50 years, the span of your entire working career, we have to keep in mind that many of these accounts were novel just a handful of decades ago. So people might be better savers and investors today, but we have to keep in mind that these options actually exist now, where they did not exist in the recent past. I think it's important to focus on these 2 things. Needing less than 100% of your pre-retirement income once you step away from the workforce, and saving consistently over the course of your entire career can significantly up the odds of your success in a retirement. But because I believe in stacking the deck in your favor, I think there are a couple other things you can do to increase your odds of retirement success. It's time to move beyond simplistic models. Retirement rarely fits these cookie-cutter rules, like needing 80% of your pre-retirement income once you step into retirement, or needing to withdraw a fixed 4% of your portfolio on an annual basis. Life is not static, and these general rules are not personalized to your situation. Overwhelmingly, one of the best things you can do is figure out what your expenses are. Actually put pen to paper or create an Excel spreadsheet and figure out exactly what your expenses are today and figure out exactly what your expenses are going to be in retirement. Then create a plan that allows you to cover those expenses. And understand that your expenses are going to vary from year to year. And don't forget the one-off expenses. I think that's one of the biggest flaws with the 4% rule, because maybe your home needs a new roof or maybe you need a car. So build a buffer into your expenses that you're figuring out for retirement for those non-everyday expenses, those expenses that pop up from time to time. Having this buffer is going to give you a nice cushion once you enter into retirement. Just anticipate that your spending will vary from year to year. One of the most common spending patterns in retirement is what is referred to as the retirement smile, where for the typical retiree, your spending in your initial retirement years, known as your go-go years, is higher. Then as you age, your spending declines, your slow-go years. And then perhaps towards the very end of life, you may end up in no-go years, where your spending again increases in large part due to medical costs. And yes, this is a simplistic model, but often we do see that retiree spending does tend to follow this pattern. And if you keep this concept in mind, maybe you allow yourself a higher withdrawal in your first few years of retirement. And maybe in your later years of retirement, you give yourself a lower withdrawal. Maybe this allows you to extract more fun from your money and inject more fun into your retirement. And also, one of the best investments you can make is an investment in your health. While life is full of many unknowns, taking care of yourself is always a worthwhile investment. And keep in mind that healthcare costs have continually increased at a rate that outpaces inflation. And this is a concern for all retirees at nearly all income and all savings levels. Disproportionately, lower income households do not have extra savings to cover health shocks, meaning that 1 or 2 years of long-term services and support can often deplete their savings. My 2 cents I would add here is that this is still a concern for middle income and high income families. Long-term care comes with a very high price tag. My father has vascular dementia and he's in a memory care facility, and the price tag is over $10,000 a month. So I think it's very important to save for future healthcare costs, but do everything you can to invest in staying healthy. And I say all this with the grace of knowing that sometimes life just happens. Sometimes health events happen and they can be expensive and they can be heartbreaking. Here's the good news. The retirement crisis isn't inevitable if you focus on saving consistently. If you take advantage of employer-sponsored plans like a 401k, if you realistically plan out your expenses, you stack the deck in your favor of having a successful retirement, a retirement where you don't run out of money. Retirement doesn't have to be scary. It's all about preparation. What is your biggest fear when it comes to retirement? Do you fear running out of money? Do you have a plan to mitigate this risk? Share your thoughts in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. Apparently my mom is calling. Hello.
Hello. I'm sorry. Oh, you look beautiful.
Why are you sorry? I'm trying to film. Gonna try and get back on track, but a rule in life is you always answer when your mom calls. Once they step into retirement. It's a lot of retirement repeating. We're gonna clean it up. I actually experience an increase in spending. I feel like I a little stutter there. We're gonna fix it. These stats show this direct quote. It's like a little frog in my throat. In fact, employer-sponsored retirement plans like the 401k have significantly